Hey everybody, welcome back to the Geriatric Millennials. I'm Beth.
And I'm Jayme.
And we're just two youngish, oldish ladies reminiscing about things that we used to have but now don't.
Things that we miss.
Like my youth.
Or things that I don't miss.
I had a lot of fun thinking about this little list that I have in my brain, because there's a lot of stuff that I'm like, I legitimately miss. And then there's a lot of stuff I don't. Like a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
But there's some things for sure.
Well, I want to talk about both, because I felt like for everything that I missed, there was like the flip side of what I don't miss about that. You know what I mean?
100%. 100%.
So, yeah, let's talk about it.
So I miss, everybody knows I'm a TV girl. I miss TV pilot season. And it used to be like no streaming. And so in the fall, all the networks would launch their new TV shows. At the time I had a TiVo. Which, do you know what a TiVo is?
Wasn't that like a recording thing or
yes.
something to do that attaches to your TV? That's what I know.
It was one of the very first DVRs, where you would, like a digital video recorder, where you could record live television and all this stuff. And so you would search and whatnot. And I remember when I got my TiVo, I was like one of the first million people to have a TiVo, which is a lot of people, but still an early adopter here.
Yeah.
I got it in college, of course. Well, you could search on there, and I had a special search, and I'd always put pilots, and I would literally record every pilot that came out in the fall, and I'd watch all of them, and it made me so excited. And I was really into like filmmaking and TV production at the time, but I was just so excited about it. And now it's just like things will just drop, and like the whole season drops, and like there's like, you know, like you barely hear about something coming out, and then it's there, and then, you know, half the time it'll just disappear, and it's just like, I just miss like having that season where everybody was watching those specific shows and like deciding if you liked it or not. And I don't know.
Yeah.
It's kind of a random, but I missed it.
Yeah. Well, kind of along those lines, I just wrote down, when I was thinking about this, I wrote down the word anticipation.
Yes.
Because I feel like there used to be a lot more anticipation in so many different areas of life that I miss, because now everything is so instant and so easily accessible that you don't really have to anticipate things for very long, or at least that's how it feels. And on the flip side of that, like I was saying, like, who doesn't love instant gratification? Like, I mean, there's like, it's great. Like, you don't have to wait for a lot of stuff that you used to have to wait for. But there is something about like anticipating that is part of the experience that gives you a feeling of, like you were saying, excitement.
Yeah.
That it's harder to find that now, like when it comes to a lot of things, I think.
I think so too. Like, it just made me think about, like, you know, when I moved overseas years ago, I was just there for a short time. But it's like, I found a few blogs on what people said to bring, but there was no like walkthrough videos of housing. Can you just
say where you moved? Because like overseas is so vague.
Oh, I moved to South Korea, but I've said that before.
Well, I know. Okay. Maybe somebody's listening for the first time and they're like, where'd she go?
I went far, far away. But it was like, there was just not a ton of information, and it wasn't like, there was YouTube, but not like how it is now. And like, there wasn't Google Maps the way it is now. Like, I couldn't just go to my location and walk around it. And recently,
how did you not get lost, or did you get lost?
I didn't get. I knew how to get to my house, and I knew how to get to the store, and I just hoped for the best. I stayed on the main roads, you know. But it was like the first few times I had to like walk to my school and stuff. People would walk with me, but that only lasted a couple times, and so it was very like, you got to just figure it out. And so it was so different. And now I see people that do walkthroughs, and like they're talking about it, what to expect, all this stuff. And it's just like, there was something kind of magical about just not knowing what you're getting into. Yeah. It was like, even like growing up and going to like, unless you had an older sibling, like going to homecomings and going to proms and all this stuff, that wasn't like you'd seen it done a million times before on social media or whatever it is. Right. So anyway.
I mean, I still have some of that as far as being a parent and having a kid and I'm like, I didn't grow up in America. I don't know what all this high school stuff is. Yeah. Like all these different things like dances and stuff. And I'm like, I don't know what that means. Yeah. Like, what is Tolo? I don't know what that is. YOLO, Tolo, like very different things, but I don't know.
Very different things.
But it rhymes. And I'm like, does it have anything? I'm like, what is that? So anyway, but yeah.
Speaking of dances, because Tolo and YOLO, as you like to call it, like I used to always buy physical CDs And when I bought them, I would listen to the whole album and not on like shuffle. So it's like, I feel like,
there was an intentional order.
Yeah. And I feel like, especially back in the day, 1990s or whatever, I feel especially back in like the 1990s, it was like you would listen to albums and it made sense to listen to the full thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like I remember, I think it was Mariah Carey's Rainbow album. That thing was on repeat and I would listen to it from start to finish over and over. And what I've noticed now is like I really like Olivia Rodrigo. Is that her name? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I like a few of her songs. And so I added them to a playlist and I realized like, oh, there's a song I like and I've heard it, but I don't know which one it is because I've never listened to the full album and just sat down and listened to the order and felt the vibe. And I miss that. I mean, and I can control that, but it's also not, it's not what you do now. You like make your own playlist. Yeah. You're putting things wherever. Skip, shuffle. Like, oh, I don't like the start of that. So anyway, I just miss that like experience of listening to albums.
We're going to go see Norah Jones.
Oh, nice.
And that reminds me because when I first got married, we listened to her album.
Yeah.
That came out. It was like right at that time. So many times.
Yeah.
And I haven't really listened to her since. So I got to catch up on like all her newer stuff.
Yeah.
That was, I forget what the album was called, but she's got one of those albums that
I can see the cover of it. Yeah.
That made me think of that.
That's probably one of the last albums I purchased. One of the last CDs, I mean.
This is a funny one, but Blockbuster. Okay, I miss.
Oh, yeah.
I do and I don't. I do miss Blockbuster because it was the experience. It was like, it was fun to go and like look and browse because it was like a physical thing. You didn't know what was going to be there. And then you would see it there for the first time and be like, what's this about? And read the back and like, and buy candy and just like, it was just, and then you go home and watch the movie and it was just a whole evening.
It was a whole experience.
And so I missed that. But at the same time, I really don't miss that was the only option we really had because I actually really love going down, sitting on my couch and like clicking a button and I'm like, boom, it's all there.
That's overwhelming sometimes though.
Oh, absolutely.
I miss Blockbuster and like local movie rental places. I used to go to this place called Porter's Video and it was interesting. And it was just like, but there was like a whole vibe to it, right? And it's like, you'd go and you get so excited and like, oh, they don't have it. And like, I don't know. That goes back to the anticipation and the all that. I will have to say, during that time, especially like in the like late 90s and early 2000s, I miss the fact that you could like not have spoilers in movies and stuff.
Right.
Because like nobody was talking about it like in a wide way.
Now you have to be careful. Like, to preserve your experience.
It's frustrating to me that people will get a preview of it or they'll go to the whatever, like these like social media like commentary people and they'll say, oh, the twist or there's a spoiler, like, and it's just like, or they'll say like, before they even say spoiler alert, they spoil the movie and it's very frustrating and it's just like I miss like that anticipation of like, oh my gosh, I remember when Scream came out and that that movie had, I'm gonna spoiler alert, it had twists and stuff in it, but if you haven't seen it, came out in 1996 or something, so like you had your shot.
I actually did see it.
Yeah, but I remember like people going to like it was an exciting. Same with Blair Witch. You would go and nobody knew what the like anything was. You barely would know what the plot was because it's like you wouldn't necessarily even seen a trailer. You just like word of mouth. Oh, we're going to go see this new movie, and it was just like, oh my gosh.
Do you remember having to call the movie theater and listen to them list all the movies and the times?
Movie phone, Mr. Movie Phone.
Yes, yeah. And they would list. Yeah, they would, like it would be a voice recording of like what movies are playing, and I'd be like jotting it down, writing it down so that I could remember, like, and then decide which one I wanted to go to. Yep. Oh my gosh, I don't miss that.
I remember because we got the paper because everybody used to get the paper and opening up and finding the listing for all the movie times. And it's just like, that is wild to me that we used to do that. Yeah. But you had to.
Yeah. Related to this, you know what I miss? I miss a cheap theater.
Oh my gosh, the $2 theater is gone. What the heck?
Because I'm always way far behind. So I loved going to the cheap theater because it was still like new stuff to me. I hadn't seen any of that stuff.
I remember watching
$1 movie, $2 movies.
I remember going with my girlfriends we had a little theater, or it wasn't little, but it was a theater here that was the $2 theater, and The Sandlot was playing. And we like snuck in all this food And it was like I fell in love during that movie because
of course you did.
The Sandlot was
What was his name?
Benny.
That's right.
I mean, I think I was like 13 or 12 when I saw it. So anyway, but it was just like that was such fun memories of just going and shenanigans and
it was affordable. Hello,
so
cheap
affordable.
Theater. Now the movies are so expensive.
Yeah, I kind of miss too, like not being able to book my seat. I mean, I do appreciate being able to reserve my seat and I know it's there and blah, blah, but there was something about having to get to the theater, to get there early,
to like get a good seat.
And then like you have to save seats and then people are like getting the popcorn and it's like, you know, like I always had a family member, I've shared this before, she loves to come into a movie theater late and it would give me anxiety.
Yeah.
But it was just kind of like it added to the like experience.
Totally.
Anywho.
Here's something I miss. Less responsibility.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Duh.
Right?
It's so hard being a grown-up.
I mean, that's all.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not all, but
I'll tag team with that with like, I miss, like, I feel like now there's always an expectation of being available.
Oh.
And I miss it. Like you could just be like, oh, I'm home for the night. Like I don't have
like
nobody's
somebody has
texting.
to
Like we didn't even have texting. So it's just like, okay, like I'm home. I'm just unreachable.
Yeah.
Or if you were out and about, especially like when we were kids, if you were out and about, you couldn't get a hold of your friends.
Oh, heck no.
Or you might have to drive by their house to see them or ride your bike or whatever.
Yes.
But that was really nice to just kind of like not be available.
Yeah. Here's another thing. Along similar lines as far as just missing like the days of being a kid is just that ignorance is kind of bliss in a lot of ways.
Oh, yeah.
And there was just so much less information readily available. So I like that I can find out and know, kind of be aware of like news and stuff about what's going on in the world. But at the same time, it's overwhelming. And I miss just kind of being oblivious and like just knowing what's going on in my own little world. And that's it, because
it can be a lot.
It can be a lot.
I remember like watching the local news in the morning and the local news at night with my parents. And it's just like, it was a different vibe for sure.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, sometimes you get like big stories like nationwide, but even now, like, oh my gosh, who was I talking to this about? I can't remember. Anyway, we were talking about serial killers in America and blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, there's so many like crime shows and this and that. And you just start realizing like, oh my gosh, like it's too
horrible.
much.
It's too much.
I don't want to know about all that.
Yeah, I don't. So like less information. But at the same time, like the flip side of that is I really appreciate Google.
Yeah.
I really appreciate that when I have a question, I can like Google and hopefully find like an accurate answer a lot of times, especially if it's just like trivial kind of stuff, not necessarily opinion based.
Yeah.
But just like, oh, like what kind of bird is that I just saw? And now if I don't have if I don't have like a book reference, I can Google it, or just, that was just a random example, but like, or I can look up, oh, is this going to be cheaper at such and such a store? Or I don't know. I love that I can at my fingertips have access to like the answers to all my questions.
Okay. 2 things related to that. I do miss the card catalog, like the physical card catalog at the library. Or you'd have to go talk to the research librarian to like find books or whatever. The Dewey Decimal, which is problematic, but we use it. It just used to be so fun to go through the cards and like, okay, I got to find like, where do I find, beavers, and just go look it up.
Yeah.
Going back to the Googling and just getting your response and finding things out. I really like Snapchat because you can go to their map and like when something in the world is happening, a lot of times I've like gone to the map where people are like live broadcasting and like just making stories about what's happening right now on the ground. I mean, when there's internet, obviously, but it's been really fascinating. Or if like I'm really bored on like a Wednesday night, I'll sometimes open my Snapchat and just look at the heat maps where people are posting all over the world. And like, let me just see what's happening in Cairo tonight, or let me see what's happening in like Paris.
I don't even know how to use Snapchat for that. You know what I use Snapchat for?
No.
Filters.
Oh, that's funny.
It is funny.
Yeah.
And that's why I use it.
You like the silly filters. I thought you were using the beauty filters, but no.
I mean, yeah, both. Just and then taking pictures and then laughing. Yes. That's what I like to do with Snapchat. And that's all. I don't even know all the features.
I have to say I love the fact that back in the day, you'd have 24 pictures. You didn't know what you're going to get.
Oh.
But I also hated it because we would be so careful because it was expensive. So you always want to take a good shot. But I look back at a lot of my pictures of me as a young person and they're just like me with my tongue out being like, and just being like goofy or like, it was so hard to get good pictures. Like now it's like kids today don't know how hard it was to get a nice headshot.
Right.
Like you'd have to go to a professional.
Yeah.
Like spend hundreds of dollars to get a nice headshot back in the day. Maybe go to Glamour Shots, which my aunt did that once. And she gave the picture. I mean, she did full makeup and she had like her collar popped on this 80s jacket with shoulder pads. It was in my grandma and parents' house for years. And I would look at that picture. I'm like, that's the classiest thing I've ever seen in my life. I can't wait till I can go to the Glamour Shots, which used to be at the mall.
Yep.
And it's just like, oh, can you imagine?
That's so funny.
So fun.
Okay. This is last but not least on my list. I don't know how much you have left, but one thing I really miss is my mom cooking food.
Oh, yeah. Oh.
Because I'm not a huge fan of cooking and it was just so nice to just never think about it. So I miss that.
I mean, I can kind of relate, but not. When we were growing up, we had a lot of fend for yourselves nights.
Mm-hmm.
And that got tricky.
Yeah.
Because my fending was not great.
Yeah.
But my dad did have like a couple. My dad was the main cook in the family. And so I know what you're talking about, though, when you just come home and the food is done. You don't think about it. You just go dish up.
Yeah.
And it's great.
Yep.
Like, I don't think there's anything greater as an adult that you can get is somebody else like making great food for you and you not having to clean up or cook it.
Right.
Oh, it's fantasy.
I mean, you can go to a restaurant, but it costs a lot of money.
Yeah. Especially now. Like, it's wild.
I know.
But it's there's something very beautiful about that. I have a couple more.
Okay.
One thing I miss is 88-cent gas.
Oh.
When I was driving, it was like when
now
I first
it's like
started driving.
$4.88.
Yeah, when I first started driving, it was about 88 cents, 85 cents. And we would just burn gas. Like, I mean,
cruising for fun.
Go cruising, just drive around and look at like the people's, like drive around the boys' houses that we liked and stalk them all over town. Because we lived in a city with like 3 towns close, we'd always drive into the other town and like try and find places we've heard about and just burning gas all night. And it cost you no money. Now I'm like, what is my most strategic, like A to B scenario to like minimize my gas use?
Right.
Yeah. I don't know. It's kind of just like, whatever. A couple other things that I really miss is I miss hanging out with my friends without having to plan it 6 weeks in advance.
Oh.
I miss just like on a whim, be like, hey guys, let's go to the mall. Hey, let's go do XYZ. And multiple people being ready to go.
Yeah.
And now it's like awful.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. It's like months in advance. Yeah. I mean, for some people.
Yeah.
Yeah. I do try to still be kind of spontaneous, but most of the time nobody else can. Like, it doesn't work out for me because
schedules are off and people are working and they're not working. And, I got the kids
just
and
always so much
I don't have a babysitter. On. Yeah. And it's just kind of like, I just miss the freedom of like, hey, let's take an impromptu road trip to Walla Walla. Okay, like there's just not that freedom.
No.
Everybody's just overscheduled and just has so much going on. So that always kind of makes me sad.
Yeah.
Last but not least for me, this is a big one. This one hurts my soul. I miss Jell-O pudding pops.
What?
Jell-O used to make pudding pops, which were like...
Are they frozen?
They're a frozen treat. It's like a popsicle, but instead of being like popsicle based, like, water and sugar, it's like pudding. So it's like a little bit thicker and creamier. They
don't make them anymore?
They stopped making them, I think, sometime in the early 2000s. And you always there was a chocolate one, a vanilla one, and a chocolate vanilla swirl one.
I mean, they sound fantastic. I don't think I ever had one, but how is it differentiated from a fudgesicle?
The texture was a little bit different.
Okay.
I feel like fudgesicles had a little bit more crystallization in them.
Yeah.
The texture or the taste was a little bit different. And the key was that chocolate vanilla swirl and the vanilla one. It was so good. And I will get cravings for a pudding pop so hard. And I remember buying my last box of pudding pops at the Walmart. It was the last place I could find them. I never usually shopped at Walmart. I went to the Walmart. I would get the pudding pops and I would just be in heaven.
Do you think you could make them?
I'm sure there's some dupe recipe, but I don't want to make them. I want Jell-O to bring them back.
Of course you do.
And just like have it ready to go for me at the store on a hot day where I can have my pudding pop and live my best life.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's all I want. That's all I want, to live my best life with pudding pop.
I feel like it's not too much to ask.
Not at all, especially nowadays. They can charge me extra. Make it a $10 box. I'll buy it. I don't care.
Yeah.
I feel like that's one thing about nostalgia. Like I'm like, these brands need to bring stuff back that we were like in love with as kids. Cause most of us have, adult money now.
Right. We
And it's
buy
like,
it.
we'll buy it. Like I will pay $8 to have something frivolous. I'll pay $15 sometimes to have something frivolous that's like nonsensical to have. Like my books for children that I had to have from the 80s. Just to have that little slice of memory and whatnot. So put in pops.
Now I want to try it, but I can't.
Sorry.
Hey, if you're enjoying this podcast and would like to support our show, you can share episodes with your friends and family, follow us on Instagram at the Geriatric Millennials, or leave us a positive review and rating, all which help us to grow. Our theme music was created by the Finley Ghost, so check out their latest album now. Thank you so much.